Taeho Kim stood at the large window of the space station. He watched the stars and thought about the rules that kept the peace. These rules were made by the Galactic Accord, a group of old alien races who ran things in this part of space. The most important rule was simple: no one helps other planets with their problems. Each world must solve its own troubles. Taeho was Earth's man at the Accord Council. He wore his dark blue uniform with pride, but lately that pride had begun to fade. The more he learned about how the Accord worked, the less he liked it. He turned away from the window when he heard the door open. Gina Park walked in with a data tablet in her hands. Her face was serious. "Commander Kim, I have the reports you asked for," she said. Taeho took the tablet. "Tell me what I need to know, Lieutenant." Gina stood straight, her hands behind her back. "The Vosek ships are still attacking the Neri planet. They have destroyed 6 more cities since yesterday. The death count is now over 3 million people." Taeho felt his stomach tighten. The Neri were a young race. They had just begun to explore space when the Vosek found them. The Vosek were hunters who took what they wanted. They had done this before to other worlds, always choosing victims who were not part of the Accord. "What did the Council say when you showed them this?" Taeho asked. Gina's face showed anger for a moment before she controlled it. "The same thing they always say. The internal affairs of the Neri people remain beyond Accord jurisdiction. They will not help." Taeho placed the tablet on his desk. The screen showed pictures from the Neri world. Burning cities. Dead people in the streets. Children crying. "What about our message to Earth?" he asked. "Admiral Sunwoo has received it. He is waiting for your final word." Taeho walked back to the window. Earth had joined the Accord 30 years ago. Humans were still seen as children by the older races. They were expected to learn and follow the rules without question. But there was something the Accord did not understand about humans. They could not watch innocent people die when they had the power to help. For 3 years, Taeho had played by the rules. He had smiled at council meetings while planets burned. He had voted the way Earth was expected to vote, all while a plan took shape back home. "Send the signal to Admiral Sunwoo," Taeho said. "Tell him it's time." Gina's eyes widened. "Sir, if we do this, the Accord will—" "I know what they will do," Taeho said. "But I also know what I will do if I have to watch another world die. Send the signal." Gina nodded and left the room. Taeho looked back at the stars. Soon those stars would see something they had not seen in thousands of years. They would see someone break the most important rule of the Accord. No one was supposed to intervene in the problems of other worlds. But Earth was about to do just that. Taeho walked to his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a small device. He pressed his thumb against it, and it lit up with a green light. This was his resignation from the Council, already prepared. He would deliver it tomorrow after Earth's fleet was on the move. His communication screen lit up with an incoming message. It was from Minji Kang, his assistant at the Council. "Commander, the Vosek representative wants to speak with you," she said. "He says it's about increased Earthships near the border of Nayari space." So they had noticed something already. Taeho took a deep breath. "Tell him I'm busy with reports. I'll speak with him tomorrow." By tomorrow, it would be too late to stop what was coming. He opened another screen on his desk. This one showed the Nairi homeworld. It was a beautiful blue-green planet, much like Earth, or it had been beautiful before the Vosek bombs began to fall. The Accord believed that peace came from not getting involved. They thought that by letting each race solve its own problems, they were being wise. But what about races that had no chance against stronger enemies? What about the Nairi, who had barely reached their moon when the Vosek arrived with warships? Taeho had argued this point many times in council meetings. The older races would look at him with pity, as if he were a child who didn't understand adult matters. "Commander," Gina said, returning to the room, "the message has been sent. Admiral Sunwoo acknowledges. The fleet will move within 6 hours." Taeho nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. You should prepare to leave the station. When the Council learns what we've done, they will not be kind to Earth representatives." Gina stood her ground. "I'm staying, sir. Someone needs to explain our actions to the Council." "That will be my job," Taeho said. "Your job will be to join our fleet. They'll need good officers." "Sir, with respect, That's an order, Lieutenant. The shuttle leaves in 1 hour." After Gina left, Taeho sat at his desk and began to write. His words would be sent to every member of the Accord Council. He needed to explain why Earth had decided to break the most important rule. He needed them to understand that sometimes doing nothing was worse than doing something dangerous. The words came easily. He had been thinking about this moment for a long time. To the honored members of the Galactic Accord Council, he wrote, "By the time you read this message, Earth's fleet will be moving to stop the Vosek attack on the Neri homeworld. We take this action knowing it violates the non-intervention policy that has been the foundation of peace for millennia." He paused, thinking about the reactions his words would cause. The older races would be angry. They might even punish Earth. But he continued writing, "We believe that a peace built on the ashes of innocent worlds is no peace at all. We believe that those with the power to prevent genocide have a duty to act. The Neri have no defenses against the Vosek. Without help, they will be extinct within days. Earth cannot stand by and watch this happen." Hours later, Tejo stood in the council chamber. It was empty now, but tomorrow it would be filled with angry representatives demanding answers. He would give them their answers, and then he would return to Earth to face whatever punishment his own people decided he deserved. His communication device beeped. It was a secure channel from Admiral Sunwoo. "The fleet is moving, Commander," Sunwoo said. His face on the small screen looked determined. 57 ships, our entire battle group. We should reach the Neri system in 20 hours. "And the Accord sensors?" Tejo asked. "We're using the new stealth systems. As far as they can tell, we're just running exercises in the Sol system. By the time they realize what's happening, we'll already be there." Tejo felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For 3 years he had played a part, pretending to believe in rules that let innocent people die. Now he could finally do what was right. "Good luck, Admiral," he said. "Remember, the goal is to save the Neri. Try to avoid killing the Vosek if possible." Sunwoo's face hardened. "I'll do what I can, but the Vosek have shown no mercy. I won't risk our ships or the Neri survivors by being too gentle." The communication ended, and Tejo was alone again with his thoughts. What would happen next was unknown. Earth might be removed from the Accord. They might face trade sanctions or even military action from the older races, but they would have saved an entire world of people. Tejo walked out of the council chamber for the last time. Tomorrow, everything would change. The Accord would learn that humans played by different rules when innocent lives were at stake. They would learn that some principles were worth fighting for, even at great cost. As he headed toward his quarters, Tejo thought about the words his father had told him when he was a child. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Earth was about to break the biggest rule in the galaxy, and Tejo Kim had given the order that made it happen. 1 year had passed since Earth's fleet saved the Neri people from extinction. Much had changed in that time. The galaxy was not the same place it had been before humans decided to break the most important rule of the Galactic Accord. On the bridge of the Earth fleet ship Indomitable, Admiral Donghyun Sunwoo stood by the large window, watching as ships gathered for a historic event. The left side of his face bore a scar from the battle with the Vosek. It was a reminder of how close they had come to failure that day. "Admiral, the representatives have all arrived," said Captain Minji Kang, approaching him. "They're waiting in the conference room." Donghyun nodded. "And the Neri colony ship?" "In position and ready for departure as soon as the ceremony is complete." They walked together through the corridors of the ship. The Indomitable had been repaired after the battle, though some scars remained. Just like its admiral, the ship carried the marks of what it had endured. The conference room was large, with a round table in the center and a view of space through windows on one side. As Donghyun entered, he saw representatives from 27 different worlds seated around the table. Some were members of the Galactic Accord, others were from worlds that had never been allowed to join. All were here for the same purpose. Tejo Kim stood at the head of the table. Once Earth's representative to the Accord, he now had a new title, Chancellor of the Galactic Covenant. He smiled as Donghyun entered. "Admiral Sunwoo," Tejo said, "we were just discussing you. Your actions last year set all of this in motion." Donghyun took his seat. "I only followed orders, Chancellor. You're the one who decided the Neri were worth saving, even if it meant breaking the rules. And we're all glad you did," said a blue-skinned man sitting nearby. This was Hisung Cho, once the defense minister of a dying world, now the leader of the Neri people as they prepared to start a new life. Tejo called the meeting to order. 1 year ago, Earth took an action that shocked the galaxy. We sent our fleet to save a world that was being destroyed, while the Galactic Accord stood by and did nothing. We broke their most sacred rule because we believed that sometimes someone must intervene to prevent genocide. He looked around the table at the diverse faces watching him. Today, we formalize a new agreement between our peoples. The old accord has not fallen completely. It still exists and many worlds still follow its principles. But we who gather here have chosen a different path. Lieutenant Gina Park entered the room carrying a document. She placed it on the table before Tai-Ho. This was not a digital agreement but one written on actual paper, an ancient human tradition that had impressed many of the alien representatives. The Galactic Covenant is based on a simple idea, Tai-Ho continued. All sentient species have the right to exist without fear of extinction. When that right is threatened, we have a duty to act. He opened the document. This agreement establishes mutual defense pacts between all our worlds. It creates early warning systems to detect threats to member planets. Most importantly, it sets clear rules for when intervention is not just allowed but required. The representatives listened carefully. What Tai-Ho was proposing was revolutionary. For thousands of years, the Accord had maintained a certain kind of peace through its policy of non-intervention. But that peace had come at a terrible cost, allowing aggressive species like the Vosek to destroy entire civilizations as long as they chose victims who weren't Accord members. Since our action at the Neri homeworld, Tai-Ho said, Earth has helped stop 3 more Vosek attacks on developing worlds. We have not been alone in these efforts. Many of you here today have contributed ships, supplies, and personnel to protect those who cannot protect themselves. He gestured to a group of representatives from older worlds that had once been firm supporters of the Accord's policies. Some of you risked your standing with the Accord to join us. You recognize that a peace built on the sacrifice of innocent worlds is no peace at all. Ambassador Seo-Hyun Ryu sat beside Tai-Ho. She had defended Earth's actions before the Accord Council a year ago. Now she spoke to the gathered representatives. The committee formed by the Accord to study changes to the non-intervention policy is still debating after a year, she said. They may debate for decades more. Meanwhile, worlds continue to face threats. We cannot wait for the Accord to change. We must be the change ourselves. On a screen at one end of the room, they could see the Neri colony ship. It was huge, carrying 50,000 survivors to a new planet where they could rebuild their civilization. The Vosek had destroyed their homeworld's environment with their weapons. It would take centuries to recover, but thanks to Earth and its allies, the Neri people would have a future. The colony ship is ready for departure, Hyesung said. My people owe their lives to Earth and to all of you who have helped us this past year. We are proud to be founding members of the Covenant. One by one, the representatives approached the table to sign the document. Each signature represented a world that had chosen to take a stand against genocide and extinction. Some were powerful worlds with strong militaries. Others were developing civilizations that had barely achieved spaceflight. Together, they were creating something new in the galaxy. While the signing continued, Dong-Yun spoke quietly with Gina Park. How are the new defense systems coming along? He asked. Very well, Admiral, Gina replied. We've installed early warning beacons in the systems of all our more vulnerable members. If the Vosek or anyone else tries another attack, we'll know immediately. And our fleet? Still rebuilding. We lost 22 ships in the 4 interventions this year, but new vessels are being constructed by Earth and our allies. We're stronger together than any of us were alone. Dong-Yun nodded. The cost had been high. Many good people had died to save others they had never met, but he believed it was worth it. Earth had shown the galaxy a different way to maintain peace, not through looking the other way, but through standing together against threats. When all the representatives had signed, Tai-Ho stood again. With these signatures, the Galactic Covenant is now officially established. Our first act as a new organization will be to oversee the safe passage of the Neri colony ship to its new home. The representatives moved to the windows to watch as the colony ship's engines powered up. It was a beautiful vessel, built with technology from a dozen different worlds. On its side was painted the new symbol of the Covenant, a circle of stars with hands of different colors reaching inward to connect at the center. As the great ship began to move, Hyesung stood beside Tai-Ho at the window. When the Vosek attacked us, I told my daughter that no one would come to help, he said softly. I had to explain to her that the rules of the galaxy said no one should interfere with our problems. even if those problems meant our extinction. He watched as the ship carrying his people moved away from the station. Now I have told her a new story. I have told her that we are not alone in the universe, that there are people on distant worlds who believe all life is worth saving. The colony ship's engines flared brighter as it accelerated toward its future. In a few days it would make the jump to faster-than-light travel and begin its journey to a new home. It's a good story, Taiho said, and it's true. After the ceremony, the representatives moved to a larger room for a celebration. The formation of the Covenant was a historic event worth marking with food, drink, and conversation. People from worlds that had once been strangers or even enemies now talked as allies and friends. Dongyun found Taiho standing alone, looking at a display showing the locations of Covenant member worlds throughout the galaxy. 27 worlds, Dongyun said. Not bad for our first year, Taiho smiled. And more asking to join every week. Word is spreading about what we're doing. What about the Accord? Have they made any progress on changing their policy? Taiho shook his head. They're still debating. Some members want to follow our example, but the oldest races are resistant to change. They've lived with the non-intervention policy for so long, they can't imagine a galaxy without it. They'll have to, Dongyun said, because we're not going back to the old way. Seohyun joined them, carrying a data tablet. I just got word from our ships near the border of Vosek space, she said. They've gone quiet since our last intervention. It seems they've finally realized that attacking weaker worlds isn't as easy as it used to be. Good, Dongyun said. That's the goal of the Covenant, to make aggressors think twice before they try to wipe out another civilization. Gina approached with a concerned expression. Chancellor, we're receiving a distress call from a world called Mira. They're not a Covenant member, but they're asking for help. They say their sun is becoming unstable. They don't have the technology to evacuate their population. Taiho exchanged glances with Dongyun and Seohyun. This was exactly the kind of situation the Covenant had been formed to address. Not just protection from attackers like the Vosek, but help for any civilization facing extinction. How many people on Mira? Taiho asked. About 4 million, Gina said. They've achieved spaceflight but don't have ships capable of traveling to other star systems. Send a message to all Covenant members, Taiho decided. We need transport ships for evacuation and a suitable planet where the Mirans can resettle. As Gina left to send the message, Seohyun smiled. Admiral Donghyun Sunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, the Indomitable. It was the biggest warship humans had ever built. Around it, 56 other ships waited in the space near Mars. These ships were the pride of Earth's fleet. They had big guns, strong shields, and fast engines. And today, they were about to break the most important rule in the galaxy. Admiral, all ships report ready, said Captain Minji Kang. She stood at her station, her back straight and her voice steady, but Dongyun could see the worry in her eyes. Thank you, Captain, he said. Are the stealth systems working? Minji checked her screen. Yes, sir. As far as the Accord monitoring stations can tell, we're just running exercises around Mars. They can't see what we're really doing. Dongyun nodded. The plan had been 3 years in the making. While Earth smiled and played nice with the Galactic Accord, they had been building these ships in secret. Ships that could fight. Ships that could save people who couldn't save themselves. The Accord had one big rule. No one helps other planets with their problems. Each world must handle its own troubles, even if those troubles would kill everyone on the planet. For thousands of years, the older alien races had followed this rule. They called it peace. Humans called it standing by while innocent people died. Sir, we just got the signal from Commander Kim, said Lieutenant Junho Lee. He worked at the communication station. It's time. Dongyun took a deep breath. What they were about to do would change everything. Earth might be kicked out of the Accord. They might face punishment from the older races, but they couldn't watch another world die because of rules they didn't believe in. How long until the Vosek finished their attack on the Neri? He asked. Junho checked his reports. Our best guess is 2 more days. They've destroyed most of the big cities. Soon they'll start landing ground troops to kill any survivors. The Neri were a young race. They had just started to explore space when the Vosek found them. The Vosek were hunters who took what they wanted and killed anyone in their way. They had done this before to other worlds, always choosing victims who weren't part of the Accord. Dongyun walked to the front of the bridge. Through the big window he could see Earth in the distance. beautiful and blue, safe for now. But if they failed in what they were about to do, or if the Accord decided to punish them, Earth would be defenseless. They were taking every fighting ship they had. He pressed a button on his uniform. His voice would now reach every ship in the fleet. This is Admiral Sunwoo speaking to all ships. Today we are about to do something no one in the Accord has done for thousands of years. We are going to help people who can't help themselves. The Neri are being killed by the Vosek, and no one is stopping it because of a rule that says we shouldn't get involved. He paused, looking at his crew. They watched him with serious faces. They knew what was at stake. Humans have a different rule. We believe that if you can help someone who is in danger, you should help. We believe that standing by while innocent people die is wrong. The Accord may punish us for what we're about to do, but I would rather face their anger than face myself knowing I did nothing. Dongyun nodded to Minji. She pressed buttons on her control panel. All ships. Prepare for faster-than-light jump, she said. Set course for the Neri system. The ships of Earth's fleet began to move. Engines glowed bright as they lined up for the jump to faster-than-light speed. Admiral, we just got a message from the Accord monitoring station, Junho said. They want to know why our ships are changing position. What should I tell them? Tell them we're adjusting our exercise area to avoid some asteroid debris, Dongyun said. By the time they figure out what we're really doing, we'll be long gone. Junho sent the message. Minutes later, he looked up from his station. They accepted our explanation, sir. They're not suspicious yet. Good, how long until we're ready to jump? 5 minutes, Admiral, Minji said. Dongyun returned to his command chair. The next few days would determine the fate of Earth in the galactic community. If they succeeded, they would save millions of lives. If they failed, they might lose everything. On his personal screen, he looked at pictures from the Neri world. It was a beautiful place, or it had been before the Vosek started bombing it. Now many of its cities were in ruins. The Neri themselves looked somewhat like humans, but with blue-tinted skin and large eyes. They were peaceful people who had never developed many weapons. They had no chance against the Vosek. 2 minutes to jump, Minji announced. Dongyun thought about his family back on Earth, his wife and 2 children. Would they be proud of what he was doing, or would they blame him if things went wrong? He pushed these thoughts away. Doubt would not help him now. 1 minute to jump. The bridge grew quiet. Everyone was focused on their tasks. They had trained for this mission for months, running simulations and preparing for every possible problem. But nothing could fully prepare them for what was to come. 30 seconds. Dongyun gripped the arms of his chair. Send a final message to Earth Command. Tell them we're proceeding as planned and will report back when the mission is complete. Junho sent the message. Earth Command acknowledges, sir. They wish us good hunting. 10 seconds to jump. The ship's engines hummed louder. On the screens, Dongyun could see the other ships of the fleet, all in perfect position. 57 warships, the most powerful fleet humans had ever built, about to disappear from the Sol system. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the window stretched into lines. There was a moment of pressure, and then the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were on their way to the Neri system, 16 light-years from Earth. Jump successful, Minji reported. All ships accounted for. We should reach the Neri system in 20 hours. Dongyun nodded. Good. Now we prepare for battle. I want all weapons checked and ready. Shields at full power. And I want our best plans for how to protect the Neri while engaging the Vosek. Yes, sir, Minji said. She began giving orders to the crew. Junho looked up from his station. Sir, I'm picking up distress signals from the Neri world. They're still calling for help, but the signals are getting weaker. The Vosek must be destroying their communication centers. Record all the signals, Dongyun ordered. We'll need proof of what's happening there to show the Accord later. For the next several hours, the fleet traveled through faster-than-light space. The crew prepared for battle, checking weapons and reviewing tactics. Dongyun studied reports about the Vosek ships. They were strong, but Earth's new ships should be stronger. That was the plan anyway. 12 hours into the journey, Junho called Dongyun to his station. Sir, I think the Accord has figured out what we're doing, he said. We're picking up increased communications between Accord worlds. They're talking about Earth ships missing from the Sol system. It doesn't matter now, Dongyun said. We're more than halfway there. They can't stop us. What if they send ships to intercept us? Minji asked. The Accord hasn't fought a war in thousands of years, Dongyun said. They don't have battle fleets ready to move like we do. By the time they organize a response, our mission will be over. As they got closer to the Nairi system, the crew grew more tense. Many had trouble sleeping during their rest periods. They knew they were about to make history one way or another. 18 hours into the journey, Dong-Yun called his top officers to the bridge for a final briefing. "We'll arrive in 2 hours," he said. "Here's what we know about the situation. The Vosek have 35 ships in orbit around the Nairi homeworld. They've destroyed most major cities and are preparing to land ground forces to eliminate survivors." He showed them a map of the Nairi system. "Our plan is simple. We exit faster than light travel here, behind this moon. Then we move in quickly and hit the Vosek fleet before they know what's happening. Our first priority is to destroy their bombardment ships to stop the attacks on the planet." Minji studied the map. "What about their other ships?" "Disable if possible, destroy if necessary," Dong-Yun said. "I want to avoid killing when we can, but our main goal is to save the Nairi. Everything else is secondary." The officers nodded. They returned to their stations to prepare for arrival. In the final hour before reaching the Nairi system, Dong-Yun sent a message to all ships in the fleet. "We are about to face our greatest test. Not just a test of our weapons or our tactics, but a test of our values. We believe that helping those who cannot help themselves is right, even when the rules say it's wrong. Today we will show the galaxy what humans stand for. Today we will save a world." As the final minutes ticked away, Dong-Hyun looked at the crew on his bridge. They were ready. Their faces showed determination, not fear. 30 seconds to exit from faster-than-light travel, Minji announced. Dong-Hyun straightened in his chair. "Shields up. Weapons ready. Prepare for combat. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the window returned to normal. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped back to normal space. On the screens, Dong-Hyun could see the other ships of the fleet appearing around them. They had arrived. "All ships present and accounted for," Minji reported. "We're behind the moon as planned. No sign that the Vosek have detected us yet." "Good," Dong-Hyun said. "Prepare to move out. It's time to show the Vosek that someone has decided to break the rules." Supreme Commander Vecta stood on the bridge of the Vosek flagship. His scaled skin gleamed under the lights as he watched the destruction of another Nairi city on the screens. Clouds of smoke rose from the ruins. The Nairi had no real defenses against his ships. This conquest was even easier than the last 6 worlds the Vosek had taken. "Status report," Vecta demanded. "All according to plan, Supreme Commander," said his second-in-command. "We have destroyed 60% of their major population centers. Our ground troops will begin landing in 6 hours to eliminate survivors." Vecta made a sound of approval. The Vosek had been expanding their territory for generations by taking over worlds and killing the people who lived there. They always chose planets that were not protected by the Galactic Accord. The Accord had one main rule: no one helps other planets with their problems. This rule had served the Vosek well. They could attack any world that wasn't part of the Accord and no one would stop them. "What about the distress signals the Nairi have been sending?" Vecta asked. "Most of their communication centers have been destroyed," his officer replied. "The few signals still going out are too weak to reach very far. No one is coming to help them." Vecta was pleased. The Nairi were a young race. They had just begun to explore space when the Vosek found them. They had no chance against 35 warships. Soon their world would belong to the Vosek, and the Nairi themselves would be gone. On the surface of the Nairi planet in an underground shelter, Hee-Sung-Cho held his daughter close as the ground shook with another distant explosion. He had been the planet's defense minister, but that title meant little now. The Nairi had no real defenses against an attack like this. "Are they going to kill everyone?" his daughter asked. Her blue-tinted skin was pale with fear. Hee-Sung wanted to lie to her, to tell her everything would be fine. But he couldn't. The Vosek had made their plans clear in their first and only message to the Nairi people. "Your world is now ours. Your kind will not exist by the end of the week. We must be brave," he told his daughter instead. "Many of our people are still alive in shelters like this one. We will find a way to survive." But he didn't really believe it. The Nairi had sent distress signals to every part of space they could reach. No one had answered. The Galactic Accord, which the Nairi had been trying to join, had a rule against helping worlds with their problems. The Nairi were on their own. Back on the Vosek flagship, an officer called out to Vecta. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting strange readings at the edge of the system." Vecta turned to look at him. What kind of readings? Energy patterns consistent with ships exiting faster than light travel, the officer said. Behind the third moon, how many ships? Vecta asked, suddenly alert. The officer checked his instruments again, his eyes widening. Many, sir. At least 50. Vecta hissed in surprise. That's impossible. The Neri have no allies. Who would send 50 ships to this worthless planet? Sir, we're losing contact with our patrol ships near the third moon, another officer reported. 3 ships? Now 5. All communication lost. Vecta moved quickly to the main control panel. Alert all ships. Battle positions. Whoever they are, they will learn that the Vosek are not easy prey. But even as he gave the order, a new signal came through on the communication system. It was being broadcast on all channels, aimed at both the Vosek fleet and the Neri planet. This is Admiral Dongyun Sunwoo of the Earth Fleet. Vosek forces, you are ordered to cease your attack on the Neri homeworld immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to withdraw from this system. Vecta stared at the screen in shock. Earth? He had heard of this world. A young race new to the galactic community. They had joined the Accord only 30 years ago. What were they doing here? They're breaking the non-intervention rule, he said, almost to himself. Then he smiled, showing sharp teeth. The Accord will punish them for this. But first we will destroy them for daring to challenge the Vosek. He opened a channel to respond. This is Supreme Commander Vecta of the Vosek Dominion. You have no authority here, Earth creatures. Leave now or be destroyed along with the Neri. There was a pause before the response came. We will not leave. The genocide stops today. This is your final warning, Vecta laughed. 50 ships against 35? You are brave but foolish. The Neri will die, and so will any who stand with them. He closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. Target those Earth ships as soon as they come into range. Show them the price of interfering with the Vosek. In the underground shelter, Hyesung's emergency communicator suddenly came to life. It had been silent for days as the Vosek destroyed their communication centers one by one. Neri Defense Authority. This is Captain Jiwon Choi of the Earth Fleet ship Defiant. We are engaging Vosek forces in your upper atmosphere. Please transmit coordinates of civilian shelters to prevent collateral damage during our operations. Hyesung stared at the communicator in disbelief. Someone had come to help, and not just anyone. A fleet of ships big enough to challenge the Vosek? This is Defense Minister Hyesung Cho, he responded, his voice shaking. Who is Earth? Why are you helping us? The reply came quickly. We're the people who decided that genocide shouldn't be allowed, and we brought friends. For the first time in days, Hyesung felt hope. He quickly began sending the coordinates of all known shelters to the Earth ship. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Dongyun Sunwoo watched as his fleet moved out from behind the moon. The element of surprise had worked perfectly. They had already disabled 5 Vosek patrol ships without alerting the main fleet. All ships advance in formation, he ordered. Target the Vosek bombardment vessels first. Stop the attack on the planet. The Earth fleet moved forward, their new ships gleaming in the light of the Neri sun. They had been built in secret, with technology that pushed the limits of what humans could create. Now they would find out if they were strong enough to save a world. Vosek ships are powering up weapons, reported Captain Minji Kang. They're moving to engage us. Hold course, Donghyun said calmly. Shields at maximum. Return fire only when I give the order. The space between the fleets lit up as the Vosek ships opened fire. Beams of energy and explosive projectiles streaked toward the Earth vessels. Impact in 3 seconds, Minji said. Donghyun gripped the arms of his command chair. This was the moment of truth. If their shields failed, the mission would end before it began. The ship shuddered as the Vosek weapons hit their shields. Alerts sounded on several stations, but the shields held. Shields at 87%, an officer reported. Minor damage to outer hull sectors. Donghyun allowed himself a small smile. The new shields were working. Status of the other ships? All reporting similar results, Minji said. Our shields are stronger than the Vosek expected. Now we show them what we can do, Donghyun said. All ships open fire. Target their bombardment vessels. The Earth fleet fired as one. Their weapons were unlike anything the Vosek had seen before. Focused energy beams cut through Vosek shields. Precision missiles found weak points in their hull armor. On the Vosek flagship, alarms blared as reports of damage flooded in. 3 bombardment ships hit, an officer shouted. 2 heavily damaged, one destroyed, Supreme Commander. Vecta couldn't believe what he was seeing. No one had dared to attack the Vosek in generations. And these humans were not just attacking, they were winning. Launch all fighters, he ordered. Concentrate fire on their lead ship. Show them the full might of the Vosek. Small fighter craft poured out of the larger Vosek ships, swarming toward the Earth fleet like angry insects. Dongyun watched them come. Deploy our fighters to intercept. Continue targeting their bombardment ships. Earth fighters launched from their carrier vessels. They were smaller than the Vosek fighters, but faster and more agile. The space around the fleets became a chaotic battlefield of small craft darting between the larger ships. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Nari, Lieutenant Junho Lee reported. They're sending coordinates of their shelters and asking about evacuation. Tell them to stay in their shelters for now, Dongyun said. Once we've secured orbit, we'll send down ships to help them. The battle intensified as more Vosek ships joined the fight. But the Earth fleet had the advantage of surprise and superior technology. One by one, the Vosek bombardment ships were disabled or destroyed. Admiral, the Vosek flagship is changing position, Minji reported. They're moving away from the planet. Dongyun leaned forward. Are they retreating? No, sir. They're targeting us directly. All their weapons are powering up for a concentrated attack. On his screen, Dongyun could see the massive Vosek flagship turning to face the Indomitable. It was twice the size of his ship, with weapons bristling from every section of its hull. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Prepare for impact. The Indomitable began to move, but the Vosek flagship fired before they could get clear. Multiple beams of energy struck their shields at once. Shields down to 40%, Minji called out as the ship shook violently. Hull breach on Deck 12. Emergency teams responding. Dongyun held onto his chair as the ship rocked again. Return fire all weapons. Target their main power systems. The Indomitable fired back, its advanced weapons striking the Vosek flagship with precision. Explosions bloomed across the enemy ship's hull. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. Earth had broken the most important rule of the Galactic Accord. They had sent warships to help the Nari people when they were being attacked by the Vosek. For thousands of years, no one had dared to challenge the non-intervention policy that kept the peace among the older races. Until now. In the Great Council Chamber on the Accord Central Station, representatives from 200 worlds gathered for an emergency meeting. The room buzzed with angry voices. Many wanted Earth punished severely for what they had done. High Counselor Zivek stood at the center platform. He was from one of the oldest races in the galaxy. His skin was pale and his body thin and tall. He had seen more than 300 years of peace under the Accord's rules, now that peace was threatened. This emergency session of the Galactic Accord is now in session, Zivek announced. His voice silenced the room. We are here to discuss the actions of Earth and decide what must be done in response. He turned to where Ambassador Seohyun Ryu stood alone. She was Earth's only representative now that Commander Taiho Kim had resigned and left with the fleet. Seohyun wore a simple blue uniform and kept her face calm despite the hostile stares directed at her. Ambassador Ryu, Zivek said, your world has violated our most sacred principle. Earth agreed to follow our rules when it joined the Accord 30 years ago. Yet you have sent a fleet of warships to interfere in a conflict that was not your concern. How do you explain these actions? Seohyun stepped forward. The room grew quiet as everyone waited to hear what she would say. High Counselor, respected representatives, she began, her voice clear and steady. Earth acknowledges that we have violated the non-intervention policy. We did so knowingly and deliberately, and we are prepared to accept the consequences of our actions. Murmurs spread through the chamber. They had not expected such a direct admission. However, Seohyun continued, before you pass judgment on Earth, I ask you all one question. What is the purpose of peace, if not to preserve life? She touched a control on her wrist device. Above the central platform, a large holographic display appeared. It showed images from the Nari homeworld. Cities in ruins, dead bodies in the streets, children hiding in underground shelters. This is what was happening while we debated in this chamber, she said. This is what the Accord's policy of non-intervention allowed to happen. The Vosek were systematically exterminating an entire civilization, and according to our sacred rules, no one was supposed to do anything about it. She touched another control. The images changed to show Earth ships delivering supplies to Neri survivors, medical teams treating the injured, children being reunited with their families. "This is what intervention looks like," Seo-hyun said. 3 million Neri died before we arrived, but 27 million are still alive because Earth chose to act. Zyvex frowned. "The emotional appeal of your images does not change the fact that Earth violated a policy that has maintained peace for millennia. If every world decided to intervene whenever they disagreed with what was happening elsewhere, we would have constant war." Seo-hyun nodded. "I understand your concern, High Counselor, but I must point out that the Vosek have exploited your non-intervention policy for generations. The Neri are the 7th civilization they have attacked and tried to destroy. You all knew this was happening, yet the Accord did nothing." This statement caused louder murmurs among the representatives. Some looked uncomfortable, as if they didn't want to be reminded of these facts. "That is not relevant to—" Zyvex began, but Seo-hyun interrupted him. "It is entirely relevant," she said firmly. "Earth joined the Accord believing it represented the highest ideals of civilized society. We believed we were joining a community that valued life and justice. Instead, we found a system that allows genocide as long as it happens to worlds that aren't part of your exclusive group." Zivex's face showed anger now. "You are children playing with forces you don't understand. The peace we've maintained is no peace at all," Seo-hyun said. "It's surrender to evil through inaction." The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some supportive. Seo-hyun waited until Zyvex called for order before speaking again. "Earth will accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate," she said, when the room was quiet again. "But know this, we would make the same choice again. The Neri people were facing extinction. We had the power to help them. To do nothing would have made us complicit in their deaths." To everyone's surprise, the representative from Zaltar, another old race, stood up. "I wish to speak," he said. Zyvex nodded, though he looked unhappy about it. "For 300 years I have sat in this chamber," the Zaltar representative said. "I have voted to uphold the non-intervention policy every time it was questioned. I believed it was necessary for peace." He paused, looking around at the other representatives. "But I have been troubled by the Vosek actions for many years. We all knew what they were doing to non-Accord worlds. We chose to look away because it was easier than confronting a difficult truth. Our peace has been built on the suffering of others." More representatives began to stand, indicating they wished to speak. Some supported Earth's actions. Others condemned them. The debate grew heated. "The humans must be punished," said the representative from Bondar, a warlike race. "Remove them from the Accord. Confiscate their ships. Show everyone that our rules cannot be broken without severe consequences." "Perhaps our rules need to be reconsidered," countered the representative from Thelion. "The humans have shown courage that the rest of us lacked. They did what many of us wanted to do but were afraid to." As the debate continued, Seo-hyun received a message on her personal device. It was from Admiral Sunwoo at the Neri homeworld. She read it quickly, then asked to speak again. "High Counselor, I have just received word from our fleet," she said when Zyvex acknowledged her. "The Vosek ships that escaped have regrouped and are attacking another world just 10 light-years from Neri. It seems they are determined to continue their pattern of destruction, even after their defeat." This news silenced the chamber. Zyvex looked troubled. "What world is being attacked?" asked the Zaltar representative. "A planet called Toral," Seo-hyun said. "Its people have just achieved spaceflight like the Neri. They have no defenses against the Vosek." "Toral is not a member of the Accord," Zyvex said. "Their internal affairs are not our concern." Seo-hyun looked at him steadily. "That is exactly the problem, High Counselor. How many more civilizations must be destroyed before the Accord recognizes that non-intervention can be as harmful as intervention?" The representative from Elidon, a world known for its philosophers, stood to speak. "I propose that we form a committee to study possible revisions to the non-intervention policy. Perhaps there could be exceptions for cases of genocide or extinction-level events." More representatives voiced support for this idea. Others objected strongly. The chamber was divided, with centuries of tradition now being questioned because of Earth's actions. Zyvex called for order again. "We will vote on the formation of such a committee," he said reluctantly. "But first we must decide on Earth's punishment for the violation that has already occurred." "Before you vote," Seo-hyun said, "I ask permission to show you one more thing." Zyvex hesitated, then nodded. Seo-hyun activated the holographic display again. This time it showed a message from a young Neri girl. She looked directly at the camera, her blue-tinted skin and large eyes showing her alien origin, but the emotions on her face were easy for everyone to understand. "My name is Lena," the girl said. "I am 12 years old. 3 days ago I thought I was going to die. The Vosek ships were destroying everything. They killed my friends at school. They killed my neighbors. My father told me no one would help us because of some rule that said no one should interfere with other planets' problems." The girl wiped tears from her eyes before continuing. "Then the Earth ships came. They stopped the Vosek from bombing us. They brought food and medicine. They saved us when no one else would. I don't understand the rules that said they shouldn't help us. I just know that I'm alive because they broke those rules. If that makes them bad in your eyes, then maybe your rules are wrong." The message ended. The chamber was completely silent. Many representatives looked uncomfortable or ashamed. "Earth is prepared to accept whatever punishment the Accord decides is appropriate," Seo-hyun said into the silence. "But we ask you to consider whether you're punishing us for doing something wrong, or for showing you a truth you didn't want to see." Zivex looked around the chamber. The mood had shifted. What had begun as an angry session demanding Earth's punishment had become a deeper debate about the Accord's most fundamental principles. "We will vote now," he said at last. "First, on the matter of Earth's punishment for violating the non-intervention policy." The voting took several minutes as each representative registered their decision. When it was complete, Zivex looked surprised at the results. "The vote is as follows," he announced. "Earth will remain a member of the Accord, but will be placed on probation for a period of 5 years. During this time, they must consult the Council before taking any military action beyond their own system." It was a much lighter punishment than many had expected. Seo-hyun bowed her head in acceptance.